So that's us live, David.
Hi
We should
guys.
get, but we should get a notification in a second from YouTube and from Facebook to let us know we're live.
Well, we've discussed it all, so we might as well just switch off and say good night.
Hi, Rebecca. Oh,
Hi, Rebecca.
David, do you want to get Facebook comments up here?
I can't today. I've left my phone down the house.
Right, I'll put them up mine. Afternoon, Chris. You're second today. What the hell? We're on Facebook. There's a picture of a woman bumped by hookie. Fortunately, she was fully clothed. Hi, Tina. Hi, Mags. Hi, John. Hi, Lynn. Hi, John. Mags again. Stephen. And who we got there? George. SDW. Alexander. Last Braveheart. Hi, Last Braveheart. Hi, Rosie. Hi, Lee. Good afternoon, Mr. E. Good afternoon, Jeanette. Good afternoon, Stephen. Quiet. I'm broadcasting. Wow. Enough! Wow. You don't normally hear Buster. He's a wee bit excited because we'll get the builders in. May as well explain to people, folks. You might hear a bit of noise in the background. Hi, Ashley. How's things up there in Shetland? You might hear some noise in the background because I've got some builders in. So that's just the way it is. And Buster's a bit excited about having a lot of people in back for it and moving about. The builders might come in and out because they're draining the heating system because they're putting a new radiator in.
That's all right. We just work around it. Don't worry about that.
I will work on it. Anyway, view figures are starting to rise, David, so you want to get this underway?
Aye, yes.
Right, let's start off with the new poll from Lord Ashcroft saying that from last month at 54% for yes to this month, it is now 56% for no. And apparently this all has to do with the gender recognition reform bill. As we know, it's rubbish. But let's go into a wee bit about how polling is done. So now polling's done in a few ways, but generally what happens is when you want to, you generally have to register with a polling company, right? Like I was registered with YouGov for a while, and when you register with a polling company, they ask you about your interests. They ask you age. They ask you about your interests. They ask you about your political points of view, and then they send you polls if it's an online poll, which they think meets your interests. So when I registered with YouGov, I said I was interested in politics and the wealth inequality in the UK. So I got polls on tobacco and sport.
Basically, it's the same as what happened to myself. I went on another one, which was an online polling company, and the moment that they asked me what my likes were, as in independence and all the rest of it, at that moment I started getting polled about, I don't know, babies' nappies and stuff like that, you know. So
aye, generally. And the other thing about polling is demographics. I mean, what you've got to remember is that young people are not being polled because they're not interested in being polled. The under 45s basically are not being polled. The average people who are sitting about and have times to fill out polls are generally those that have more time in their hands, because let's face it, you and I are both registered with polling companies, we've both filled out polls. There's not only 20 or 30, 40 directed questions. I mean, it's one of the things that we found interesting with polling, or what I found interesting with polling was, even when they were sending me polling on sport and on tobacco and on consumer products, it was how the question was asked that made the big difference.
Yeah.
You know, you can manipulate the question to what you want. Yeah. And when you look at the methodology in Lord Ashcroft's poll, which Professor Sir John Curtis did, Sir John's in the National today, and I can quote from him because, as you know, I buy my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And what John says is that here we go. He says Poland is still doing the constitutional lines, and it's still roughly 50-50. Over the long run, it's 50-50. We do get these outliers, and John knows quite well that these outliers are due to how the questions are being asked. What's interesting about the article and the National from Sir John Curtis is what he's saying is the SNP have to keep doing what they're doing, and that is make the case, make the economic case, and make the social case, and continue to do what they're doing.
Well,
with that they're not going to disagree with that.
Yep, with that in mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a wee extra guest that we've got today. She's come across because we were discussing this, and she thought it's very important that we all take particular notice of what Davies got to say, right? And here she is.
Hi, Nicola.
First Minister.
Anyway, when you get right down to it, bringing Nicola in like that brings us to James Naughtie, the Scottish political reporter who is now working in London, and his interview on The World Today on Sunday, I think it was.
Has he been naughty again?
Yes, James Naughtie has been naughty, and what he did was quite sexist, actually. And one of the later commentators who was being interviewed afterwards took objection to what James Naughtie said, and what she said was that was sexist. You would never have anybody say a man looked tired.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we had the spin for the pollsters. Thanks very much, Sandy. That's very generous. By the way, the total today, as today, was £261.47. Well done.
I still haven't had any notification from the YouTube over it.
I'll go into the YouTube community later and get some advice on that. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Obviously, that needs to be sorted because we need to start distributing that money. People are in desperate.
As a suggestion, I'm worried that we're not getting money to the food banks, right?
That's what I'm saying.
And I'm prepared just to go right here, take the money out of my account and put it into the food banks, and I'll wait for the YouTube money coming. Simple as that, you know.
Aye. Now, as I say, we will get this money. I'll go into the community and find out how it is, David.
All right.
If need be, up until then, you and I can split the cost until we get the money back. You know.
Yeah.
So anyway, where were we? Oh, Nicola. James Naughtie. Now, he was being naughty, and one of the later guests gave the BBC into trouble for allowing such things. And then, of course, we had the spin in the press yesterday on the back of Naughtie's, saying that she's tired and should go. And that was that 4 in 10 Scots think Nicola should stand down. Now, we've seen this during the 2014 referendum, the run up to it. It would be 4 in 10 Scots want, but when they mentioned the fact that 6 in 10 wanted the opposite.
Yeah.
And obviously, as we point out, 60% is greater than 40%. Why is 40% the headline and no the 60%?
Yeah, and we've got this new group that call themselves the Majority, laughingly called the Majority. They've managed to gain £5,600 from 150 people to put up bill posts about getting rid of Nicola Sturgeon, and in their post at the beginning, at the top of the group, they talk about Nicola Sturgeon, the Gender Recognition Act, all that sort of thing, and how they need rid of her because of X, Y, Z, and it's crazy. It really is.
They're using the GRR at the moment as a means of attack. And then look at what they did with the GRR, that Gillespie did that road. You know, it's part of the culture war, but we'll get to that. The First Minister's being attacked left, right and centre in the press at the moment. But she did say that once they come for the person, they have lost the fight. Everyone, I have to disagree with you there, because they went after Mr. Salmon, and that worked.
Yeah.
They turned him from being a popular leader into a Marmite figure, and that's what they're trying to do with Nicola at the moment. And they're using the GRR to do it. But we've got to remember, folks, there is a culture war going on down that road, and the Tories are at the centre of it. They've always been traditionalists. They're anti-diversion, if you like. Thanks, Alexander. And when I say anti-diversion, that means they're anti-gay rights, they're anti-trans rights, they're anti-black rights, they're anti-immigration. They're fascists.
Yeah, they're using the mainstream media to build a narrative against the SNP, the Greens, and Nicola Sturgeon. But because Nicola Sturgeon is the figurehead at the top of that, they're going after Nicola Sturgeon. Do you want to play the little thing we were looking at earlier on?
David said, I mean, putting this gammon crap up, I'll tell you when to pause it. Right here. Here's this gammon crap for GB News.
GB News, right? Okay.
It sounds like the Tories' deadly secret weapon has struck again, Leo.
So Nicola Sturgeon has been hit by a new nightmare as support for Scottish independence and the SNP plummets. So they did a poll, and it's flipped. So I think last year there was a poll that said it was around 55% in favour of independence.
Yeah.
Now this new poll, 56% in favour of remaining in the UK, and only 44% in favour of independence.
When the poll last month saying 54 in favour of independence, and 46 when you change it to don't knows.
Yeah.
So what that tells us is exactly what John Curtis says. It's no up and down. It's steady. It just depends on what demographic you're asking and what time. So some of the more honest pollsters will effectively go across a demographic and effectively look for younger demographics right up to the older demographics to be included in the 1,000, 2,000, where many people are being polled. But Lord Ashcroft, being a Tory, his polling company, if you're registered with it, you're more likely to be an elderly right-wing gammon anyway.
Yeah. Do you want me to continue this, or just pull it off the screen?
You can carry on listening to some of the pish if you want.
Which is incredible. And the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, she's insisted that she'll use next year's UK general election as a de facto Scottish independence referendum. But this poll suggests that there's very little support for that. She always says this about general elections. If we win this, which they always do.
Take it off the screen, David. Bring us up again, if you wouldn't mind.
Aye.
The thing that I would like to say about this is that here we have now a mainstream channel, right? And people are watching it. And if you remember, it was Emily Maitland who had basically attacked the BBC for their activities regarding Brexit, the Brexit vote, and the way the BBC handled it while she was there. And what she said was, we found 5 experts that were prepared to back up the idea of breaking away from Europe, right? But they found 55 experts that were saying it's absolute madness, it'll cause economic collapse and all the rest of it, right? So what did the BBC do? They took the 5 experts that were backing the idea of Brexit and coming away from the EU, and they put them on practically every single day. And of the 55 experts that they found that were able to talk neatly round about the fact that it's going to cause economic chaos, they were hardly ever seen. They were seen, but only middle of the night and not very often. Okay, and that's what this is doing. This is the GB News. They are putting up a biased view. A biased view is something that a mainstream media channel should not be doing. It's dead easy. What you do is you just put everybody on there on the TV screen that is against something, right?
Well, I discussed that before.
They do no There's no voice acting for it. So they've got nobody from the SNP or pro-independence group or whatever to actually say, well, I think independence is a good thing, and I think your chat about the polls is crap. It's crap because of X, Y, Z.
Who was he talking to? He was talking to another English person. If he was talking to a Scottish person.
And I appreciate that, David, but there are people in Scotland that are watching GB News.
Aye, there's 25,000 people UK wide. You get 559 of them in Scotland. If you add you 600.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, 560. And I know you were watching it for comedy value, also to monitor the right wing crap that's coming out of Gammon TV, because you've got all TV.
Mostly Neil Oliver. When I can't find something funny to watch on TV, I put on Neil Oliver. He's brilliant, honestly. It's like, if he ever does a Kevin Bridges job at the Hydro, it's like I'll be the first to book my ticket. It'd be great, honestly.
Well, that's what happens when you get an archaeologist to tell you about history.
Yeah.
Let's face it, Neil Oliver's always been a comedy character here. He was popular once while he was doing Coast, but he was talking about geology then, basically the geology of the British Isles. But
the one that he put the other day there, he said it's a democratic monarchy. Britain is a democratic monarchy, and it's like we have got the Magna Carta of 1215 to thank for that. That's our constitution.
No, it's not, and we all know that. But I mean, that's the sort of push these people come away with. But the BBC are no much different. They did the same thing during the 2014 referendum. They tried to set the narrative. So you'd have one pro-independence advocate for the SNP or for the Greens, and they would be up against a member of the Labour Party, a member of the Tory Party, and a member of the Liberal Democrats. Now, Professor John Robertson made it quite clear that this showed an outrageous bias.
Yeah. Yes.
An outrageous bias. You had one voice versus three. That's creating a bias. And that's what's happening at the moment. They're going after Nicola there because they can.
Yeah.
And that's because they know that the SNP and the Greater Independence Movement don't have access to mainstream media. Now, where was GB News on last month's poll that pro-independence at 44% ahead? 54% in front.
Of course, they wouldn't speak during that, would they?
No, of course
they only speak when the wind is with them, which is when they find a stupid poll that they can bring out and amplify.
We'll get one here that says that Snarling does a programme on GB News and all Snarling Foster. Now, which was interesting because the Supreme Court ruled last week that the NI protocol was legal, and that basically just scrapped Article 6 of the NI-GB treaty.
Yeah.
And it was done without consultation with the people on Northern Ireland. They just scrapped Article 6. Now, if any of you know anything about the treaty between Northern Ireland and the UK to become a part of the UK, Article 6 says that Northern Ireland should have full access to the UK market as part of the UK, and that goes back to 1922.
Yeah.
When Northern Ireland was incorporated into the United Kingdom and became a Crown Protectorate, as they called it back in the day. Yeah. And that's why we have more passports in Great Britain and Northern Ireland, because Northern Ireland was a later add-on. And the treaty is different from the treaty between Scotland and England. And as we know, Wales doesn't have a treaty between England and Wales. Wales is basically a principality, part of the Greater England, apparently. Now, the people in Wales don't like to hear that. I don't like saying it, but that's the law. That's international law. They've not recognised the country anywhere except for within the EU, who recognised the Welsh as a separate sovereign people.
Unfortunately, with Wales, they are in a sort of the similar situation to the poor people of Catalonia.
I need to end this one for holiday in a wee second before we go on any. I can't make it shareable at this point in time, Dean, because I'm being restricted by Facebook, and that means that I can't edit the audience until the video is finished. So, folks, don't share this until the video is finished, and then give me 5 minutes to change it to public.
Yeah.
Where were we? Wales are Principality.
Yeah. It's such a shame, it really is, because they've got, if they want independence, they've got a hell of a fight in their hands.
I will. I mean, Mark Breakford, the Labour First Minister down there, recognises the Welsh people as a sovereign people.
Yeah.
You know, and he says the people of Wales are sovereign, but that's not how it is under international law.
Yeah.
You know, in 1967, David, as you and I are aware, the UK had to declare to the United Nations that it wasn't a single country; it was a state, like the United States or the German Republic, the German states, or the Spanish states. They're individual states that have come together to create a greater state, but they're also all individual states within a greater state.
Within a voluntary
union. That's right, and that's the declaration that the UK had to make to the United Nations in 1967. That was to say,
Okay, we're only a couple of months away from the Supreme Court of having opened their gubs, right? What I'd like to see some reaction, at least a reaction from the United Nations. And as far as I can see, there hasn't been one.
That's because the United Nations doesn't like change.
Well, okay, but I think, you know, I do read some of these salvo things, and they're talking about going to the United Nations. Why not just get the United Nations to give a statement of what they think of the Supreme Court decision?
So, as we know, one of there's the 12 MPs at the moment want to challenge that, two for the Alpha Party, one independent, Margaret Ferrier, and 9 for the SNP, including Angus Brendan, Neil, Joanne Cherry, and that. They want to challenge it. They want to challenge it under the 1689 claim of right, which doesn't actually affect the political system. The UK only affects the Crown.
Yeah.
And they want to challenge it under international law. But the Supreme Court addressed the international law thing, and it said that Scotland's not oppressed, and they doesn't meet the standards for self-determination.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think the most important thing about that challenge is the optics of it, the political optics.
Yes.
The fact that it is being challenged, that people aren't just standing back and going, "Oh, well, that's it then." You know what I mean? It's like it's getting challenged because these people in the Supreme Court did not, well, we've talked about this before, did not have the competence to make a decision on an issue regarding an international treaty between two countries.
Desiree Bincat says, with all the problems globally, I think Scottish independence is not on the EU or the United Nations front pages. It's definitely on the United Nations front pages, but the Council of Europe and the EU have more or less condemned what's been going on here in the UK. And this, it's not just to do with Scotland, but they're condemning the Section 35 order. They're condemning the Supreme Court ruling, and they see the problems coming up. What do you want me to bring up?
The top one, Stephen Charlton.
Where are we? That one.
Yeah. Yes, he wasn't from the EU, Stephen. The chap was actually a constitutional expert from Cambridge University.
Sorry, Sarah, can you go and shut up? Don't shut up.
Yeah, it was a chap called Mark. I think his second name was, but he was constitutional expert for the United Nations, who basically said we do not have to wait on Section 30 or the Westminster or whatever. We can run a referendum at any time using United Nations law. Yeah? So there you go. Get the chap's name, Mark. Have to look it up again. Speak. Let me hear you. You got a problem?
You're not going to be able to hear me because there's a bit of drumming and sawing going on at the moment. So,
right. Okay.
I'm sorry, folks. There's not a lot I can do. Thanks very much, but that's very generous of you.
Yeah,
So,
thanks.
I remember the guy you were talking about who said there was nothing to stop Scotland from running the referendum under international law and it would be illegal. So.
See, it's like you get plumbers in, they're going to start blooming making noises, right?
I'll get rid of the plumbers and I'll get joiners and everything else in the going on. Yeah. You know.
Well,
Steve, it does sound like I've moved into a dentist surgery, but I'm terribly sorry, folks. You are going to have to bear with me. Although it's quite a big apartment, it's not that big where they're that far away from you as it's going to be away. But that's just the way it goes. I'm sorry.
It's quite an interesting point at how microphones pick up the microphone that's set up to pick up the human voice should be so easily pick up a drill. And my goodness me, it's coming through my speakers like 10 times the level of your voice.
I know, it's difficult.
Oh dear. You didn't get this sort of entertainment in the
Hey,
BBC.
bad luck, David. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Hey, no dead air, please. They're definitely no unions. They're both pro-independence. They're both European citizens, and they're dying to get their vote on the issue, and they want a Scottish election as the plebiscite election as well.
Yeah, when David was actually choosing his plumbers, he had everybody that worked for all the different companies that bid for the job fill in a questionnaire. One of the most important things is, do you support Scottish independence? And if so, why? So there you go. So shut up now.
No, keep ad-libbing. Hey, Nicola's laughing behind you, big man. Hey, I'll get in a wee bit closer to the mic. Maybe that'll help drown some of it out, but I doubt it very much. Sounds like a string section warming up, does it, everyone? Sorry, folks, this is pure comedy gold. You guys must be laughing. I mean, really laughing.
I think we're going to have to cut this one short, David. You can't hear what's going out through the feed. It's literally ripping the speakers apart.
Listen, it's stopped now. If it starts back out again, then we'll think about it. No, these guys are looking forward to getting their say because they're now living here. They went through the process of being given citizenship. So now let's talk about balloons, will we? Shall we talk about balloons?
Yes, I've seen a wonderful thing put up on Facebook today. It was an Australian TV channel, right? And never mind about the Chinese balloons. What they were talking about was Chinese cameras, closed-circuit TV cameras. And they'd got in an expert who had gone round all the public buildings in Australia to actually check out how many of the cameras were actually Chinese. And there's a company called Hikvision. They do marvelous kit. They really they're Chinese. It's a Chinese product, right? And that's what he was bringing up was Hikvision. He said that watching this, that they're using their software built into the cameras to actually let the Chinese watches. How boring to watch a bunch of Australians heading for blooming David,
when you talk about being gaslighted, right? The Chinese have got as much satellite tech up there as the rest of them.
Exactly.
And why would they need a balloon to spy on anybody?
Exactly.
And the amount of weather balloons there is up there at any one time, is enormous. So, and they normally end up in the jet stream and then come down somewhere eventually. That has already been transmitted, though.
I think it must be wee grey or green men in their UFOs that are actually starting to attack. They've looked at the world and they went, we thought the Russians were dead hard and they're getting beaten off with these blooming Ukrainians. And the Americans, they're not ready for a fight. They're a bit scared, aren't they? Right? And it's like what they're doing is they're starting to come in. And maybe they're getting shot down, but they're just actually testing the Americans' ability to shoot down various craft. They have just blooming drones that they sent down, right? So I reckon we're in for getting invaded. They're coming. They are here.
I've seen a cracking meme yesterday on Facebook about these balloons, and there was a picture of an alien with his ray gun pointed at a US fighter jet, and then next thing the US fighter jet you see it's whacked in the next picture along, and the alien says, "That was my kid's balloon, you sparrow." So they managed to get the two of them in. But I mean, when did they start shooting down weather balloons?
It's especially in a country like America. I can imagine every nutter with a gun, the ones that are really into guns, having a pot shot. You know, what height was it? Was it 60,000 foot? Right? Well, I think some of these guns that I've seen blooming on YouTube and all the rest of it would easily do that. They don't need a missile to drop to actually shoot a balloon down. You know what I mean? It's like they've got big enough guns in their back gardens to blooming shoot a balloon down.
It's a few marks, right? It's distraction. What's really happening here, folks, is, and this is why we're seeing the panic in the World Economic Forum and things like that, is the 1% starting to lose their grip.
Correct.
The people are starting to rise up and say enough is enough.
Yeah.
You know, and there's dead cats thrown about everywhere at this point in time. There's dead cats everywhere, including the poll saying that none of us are interested in Scottish independence anymore. Although we do have to say, I did put a post out saying it was possible. Because in a cost of living crisis, and an energy crisis, people tend to be more insular.
Yeah.
They're not paying much attention to what's going on. They say, and the people who are being polled are of a certain demographic. But this balloon shit, we all that satellite gear for spying. Who's putting a balloon up to spy?
Oh, great. Honestly, it's look, you know, we haven't got very much information on it, right? The Americans obviously have all the gear, they've whatever they've shot down, they've got the bits, and they've been looking at them now for like 2-3 days, and they know what it's about, they know all the rest of it, right? And I'm sorry, but I don't see it as anything that we need worry about until we actually see the takeover of the planet Earth by great.
No, did you not see that statement for the White House when they were asking about it? You know, they were asking, is it UFOs? And they were, no, it's weather balloons. And that was the statement for the White House yesterday. No, it's weather balloons. And since when did we start shooting down weather balloons? We normally have them come down naturally anyway. By the time they come down, the battery is dead.
It's because it had Chinese writing on the side of it. That's what it was.
There we go. The evil Chinese, instead of using their absolutely fantastic CCTV and satellite capabilities.
This has got Chinese writing. Oh, the battery. Aye, there you go. Right, okay,
That's what I'm saying, but you know, with all that satellite tech up there, we, the plebs, are supposed to believe that they're using balloons to spy.
Yeah.
You know, you never heard so much nonsense in all your life.
Yeah. The closed circuit TV, that's more believable.
I mean, who's got a camera on about a balloon 60,000 feet up when you've got one that's powerful enough to actually zoom into a metre square in space? I mean, Google Earth have got satellites up there that can zoom into your state.
I know.
Wow. And they expect us to believe that, they're using balloons to spy on us.
Yeah.
Wow. Absolute. Talk about throwing dead cats on the table.
John Woodrup says, the Greys are already here, Mr. Milligan. The only Greys I see are these Greys.
I might when you and I started this already years ago. You had dark hair and I had fair hair. Now I've got silver hair and you're coming along quick. Mental. But so imagine actually trying to tell people that the Chinese are putting up weather balloons to spy on us. Wow.
It's a narrative that's being created against the Chinese.
Thanks, Sean.
And it's like it's a lot. All the big powers and the other big countries, they're trying to start this narrative against the Chinese, and it's like it's wrong. It's wrong because I don't agree with the Chinese politics. The rest I wouldn't let live there. However, I don't think it's right.
Well, good point. Now the Chinese on TikTok, so it's no big deal. They want to watch it, they just watch TikTok. But it's the same thing that we're seeing with the anti-Scottish independents. They're hoping that if they keep repeating that the people don't want it, the people don't want it, the people don't want it, on the mainstream media, then the masses will just go, okay.
Yeah. This thing with Taiwan, right? The Chinese surround Taiwan. Yeah.
Yep.
If they want to take Taiwan, they could do it in a few days. They've got just that many people in the armed forces and that much kit that they could actually arrange to do it. Right? They could take Taiwan in a few days. They haven't done it. Why haven't they done it? Dead simple. Because the Chinese know that it would actually bring forth maybe a reaction from the Americans or whatever that are in a very similar part of the planet Earth. Right? Yeah. And they don't want a war. And the reason they don't want a war is because it's bad for business. I know these Chinese leaders are making a bloody fortune out of what the country's doing.
See, Victoria thinks us guys are using the Chinese balloons as a dead cat ourselves. No, we're just bringing it up. Thanks for that donation. Because after all, it is in the press. And when you hear something as ridiculous as shooting down weather balloons and claiming they're spying on us, we've been putting weather balloons up for as long as I've been alive.
Victoria,
we've been putting weather balloons up into the jet stream for as long as I've been alive.
And Victoria, don't talk about dead cats. I've got a wee cat here. It'll make them scared.
You and I talk about dead cats all the time. But it's a bit like the narrative they're actually creating at this point in time. Thanks for the second donation, Ali. It's creating a bias. Once again,
Ali, will you adopt me, please?
You want to go live in sunny France, do you, David?
Yeah, I'll hang out. But you need a Paris. I like Paris.
Apparently, Stephen's late, naughty step. And no, you haven't missed it. We're on to talk about Lord Ashcroft's poll. I don't think we've got on. I think we have covered the GRR and the Real Acid. Another one, Ali. You better get your finger up that button. You'll have no money left. We spoke about Real Acid that was murdered in England, and it's beginning to look as if it might be because, thanks Lorraine, it might be because she was transgender. And the culture war is atrocious. It really is. And it's setting up the them and us, the them and us, the them and us. It's divide and conquer. Let's split society up and conquer. It's not even hard to hide.
It's the same as USA shooting down UFO in the newspapers. Well, yeah, that's what we're talking about. Is there anything else we've got to talk about? Didn't we have a wee list going?
Oh, no, we don't. Border security. Now, when it comes to borders, folks, there's two types of border control. You've got your customs controls and you've got your passport controls, right? Now, at this point in time, there is no controls on goods flowing into the UK.
Yeah.
as we know, which means that anything that's come across that channel right now is not being checked. So the border force last week decided that they would actually carry out some checks on, and they decided to check 22 vehicles, all carrying foodstuffs.
Coming in.
Coming in.
Yeah.
And out of 22 vehicles, they had to pound 21 of them, because the meat on them was maggot infested, which means the refrigeration units weren't working properly. And they also had on these vehicles mixed goods that shouldn't have been on them. So you had dairy along with fresh dairy along with fresh meat products, and you had mixed meat products on the one motor, which is all right if it's all sealed, frozen, and packaged. But when you're transporting fresh goods, that's the good.
Yeah.
It's like putting two different types of fresh meat. It's like putting fresh meat and cooked meat on the one shelf in the fridge. It's not a good idea.
Right, okay. When I hear about stuff like that, I want to know practically what's the bit. Why would somebody want to import food like that to where it came through messed up?
The UK at this point in time is desperate for foodstuffs.
Right.
Desperate for foodstuffs. And they'll just let it fly through. And there is unscrupulous people out there, as we already know, with the horse meat scandal.
Aye.
That will send foods here that are no fit for human consumption.
Yeah.
That are unhygienically shipped. If you're not checking these things, then you're going to find that you could have a real problem with illness in your population, because we all have to eat.
Yeah.
So the idea that out of 22 trucks stopped carrying food products, 21 of them had to be pounded because the goods on board were illegal to sell in the UK because of either condition or because they didn't meet the necessary standards of food standards here in the UK, is absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
And that could lead to big problems because, as we already know, variety in our supermarket shelves is going down.
Mm-hmm.
And costs are going through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
For retailers as well as for consumers.
Yeah.
So if you're a wee butcher in the corner and somebody comes up and says, I've got all this meat I can give you for X amount, and you can get a better markup on it, that helps cover the costs of running the business.
Yeah.
And it also brings you customers.
Yeah.
You know, but what unfortunately what they're selling is going to be substandard. And that's going to lead, that could very well lead to really bad health outcomes here in the UK.
But, you know, I don't know if you remember this, but a number of years ago, there was a butcher in Coatbridge where what did the people die from? It was the beef that they were selling, and it was, what was it again? I forget. E. coli. That's
Aye, well, his name is Chapman's in Whistle. And
right. Well, no, but what I'm saying is, you know, if that meat got into a butcher and somebody got ill from it, then wouldn't that just be stupid? Wouldn't it be picked up by our own, if you like, our own checks and all the rest of it?
No, coming in. No, there isn't any checks coming in.
No, but I'm talking about checks. I'm talking about after the fact. I'm talking where somebody's died.
Well, yeah. I actually, now break your talk about they managed to hone it down to that particular butcher, because that butcher fed other outlets like the one in Coatbridge.
Correct.
Now,
right.
There was a debate on whether it was cheese, and a big fight with a cheese company.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a cooked meat apparently.
Right. Okay. That's the only point I'm making. You know, I heard you talking about this today, and it was just thoughts that ran through my mind after it. You know, if somebody was stupid enough to import meat like that, open up the back of the truck and go, and then start cutting away the bits that are rotted and all the rest of it, and so, we can use that we sell that's left, you know, and somebody actually dies from it. That becomes an act of stupidity.
Yeah, but
because we still have, if you like, a system of checks and balances at this end, surely. It's got,
once it's in the market, aye.
And when somebody dies, if somebody dies from it and somebody gets really ill or whatever, surely there is a way to actually go back and find the bugger that's done it. Yeah.
No, if they're being waved through, and you can't check the supplier. You're not checking where it came from.
Right.
Wait, once you get the other end, once people are ill,
Yeah.
they might be able to say, I got it for X, and X might be able to say, I got it for X and X, and maybe you can follow the chain all the way back to somewhere in Europe.
Yeah, there will be a chain. There will be a chain, I would imagine. Well, Christine, thank you very much. Thank you.
So, Brexit once again, and the other thing about Brexit is, I read today that productivity is down because of the lack of people in the workforce because of the end of free movement. So on top of the 40 billion quid, so we've lost or so with a 5.5% of GDP, we now have another 29 billion being lost to the economy through lack of productivity because we don't have the workforce we require to do the work that we need done.
Okay. So, you know, is it a case of getting old duffers like me that maybe have stopped working to go back to work?
Well, you know, technically still work. You're self-employed, or you run your own business. But well, do you know there's a drive on to get the 55s back into the workplace?
Yeah.
And as we already know, we have got pensioners in the workforce who are having to work because their pensions don't cover their costs.
But also, if they're in public service, it seems to be usual now when people go up the ladder a wee bit and they leave, they retire, they come back a while later, maybe doing 3 days a week and claiming their pension and all the rest of it, and doing 3 days a week to increase the pot, you know.
Victoria, I'll give you a wee recap on that. The poll out said that pro-independence is slumped to 44% to 56%. Professor John Curtis looked at Lord Ashcroft's poll and said, nah, it's in the National today. What he said is it's still running roughly 50-50 over the long run. But the thing about polls is, depending on the questions that's being asked and what demographics being asked and things like that, you'll get different answers. So basically, John Curtis, who's the president of the Polling Association in the UK, he's looked at Lord Ashcroft's poll and he said, and of course the thing on the First Minister's popularity, they went like it's runs in parallel and it's still, you know, the First Minister's out in front at 64 for to stay in power. 6 and 10 think she should stay in power. 4 and 10 think she should go, and that's where that's where John Curtis says roughly where independence is in the national days. He says popularity, independence, and the First Minister popularity run side by side along the constitutional debate. So Lord Ashcroft's poll, actually, if John Curtis is right and it's running along the constitutional debate, then 6 and 4 want Nicola to stay. Sorry, 6 and 10 want Nicola to stay. 4 and 10 want her to go. That would say it's the other way around. It's 60-40. Going on what John Curtis says. But you got to remember, a poll this month saying 56 in favour of independence. Against independence. There's a poll last month for a different polling company saying 54% were in favour of independence. So it's just a matter of polls of who's asking the question. They are of course using this poll to set a narrative, whereas last month's poll you heard nothing about it in the mainstream media.
Thanks again, Ali. The one thing I want to say about that is that we used to run quite a big company in north of England, and we used to classify. We use the classification, which is roughly the same as what the polling companies do, and it was whereby you would have people that are 1A, 1AB, that sort of thing. You know, they were right at the top of the pile, right? You know, and if you ask somebody in Scotland prior to the 2014 referendum that were in the 1ABs, they would have generally said, "Oh no, we're voting no."
Aye.
because they're doing fine. You have to understand they're doing well. Their bank is getting filled with money, and they don't want anything that's going to shake that about. You know.
Hold on,
Sorry,
I better address this for Ali. Ali, when you hit the wee dollar sign, which you've been doing, they'll come up a wee box where you type your message, and below that wee box is a slider. It's a wee line, and it'll tell you what your shot is at the moment. Obviously, it's 249 for you. So if you put your horn on the slider and move it to the right, that increases the amount of your donation if you want to, Ali. But I think you've donated enough today, mate.
Yes. I worry that he hasn't got a penny to his name, and it's like he's giving us everything.
Oh no, Ali runs a restaurant. He's doing all right in France, but even that, he's been hell of a generous. He's made 5 or 6 donations at a couple of euros a day, so he's in for a tenner plus. You know.
Thanks, Ali.
Thanks, Ali. That's very good of you. David, because of the builders and that, we'll wind this one up a wee bit early. There is, we're starting to go in circles almost.
There's a guy stood there with a huge drill is there, waiting to start, and he's just waiting for
the they're putting a new flare in because when they lifted the old flare, the old wide, the flare in underneath the droid, so they're just putting a new flare in and the new radiators up. So they're getting on the boys. They're not messing about. Right.
Okay, well, fine. Let's wrap it up there. I think that's fair enough.
Viewing figures are great again today. There's a 61 on Facebook, and we've got a 100 on YouTube. So that's great, guys. And we want to thank you again for all your donations. Now, I have got something else I want to put up before we go for you guys who are here in Scotland. So a Chrome tab, Facebook, and share. So hold on, I'll get this up.
Thanks, Arc Office. Thank you very much.
Now on the 22nd of April 2023, 7 PM till midnight, Premier in Motherwell. There'll be another Indie 2 Cafe charity night to raise funds for the for food banks and for the baby banks and things like that. David and I are doing this fundraiser in conjunction with the Indie 2 Cafe because there isn't that many marches or rallies going on at the moment that they can get to. So we decided to open up the facility here. Now, I hope you've enjoyed the show today. We'll put this thing back down again. Spring one. Cancel, and that should be away. Right, so the folks, I'm sorry about this morning being a wee bit emotional. I ended my run on in daily programs, but until my health is better, it's just going to have to be a lot. I'm sorry.
And we will return on Thursday. Usual time on a Thursday, it'll be 4 o'clock, I believe it is.
Aye, 4 o'clock Thursday, we'll be back Thursday, aye.
Yeah.
And I'll pop on if there's anything really stupid in the press or propaganda in the press that needs to be overturned or has to be spoken about. I'll do a single issue, 15-minute here and there every now and again. But as I say, I'll go to take a wee step back for a while. But I'm not disappearing. We're still getting here.
We are going to try to keep the broadcast on a Monday to 2 PM on a Monday, but that's the one that might have to move about if things happen. Sometimes things happen after a weekend, right? So really, when we do cancel and maybe go elsewhere, then we let you know. But it would only be to the Tuesday. We'd only move it to the Tuesday, but we're going to try and keep it on Monday at 2 PM. Okay.
Aye.
Right, David.
We're doing 50 minutes even with the builders, and that's not bad.
Yeah. If you like what we do, subscribe, please. We need a lot more subscribers.
Hit the like button.
Hit the like button, yeah, because that helps us as well. So, and I will keep you abreast of what's going on with the money that you're donating, because that's very important. All right.
Aye, so as of the day, it was 261 quid. The numbers which been raised today will be added in a couple of days' time. YouTube seemed to be very slow. The figures. But thank you guys. You've been very generous, and say we'll get the money out there moving and get it into people's into food banks so it can get into people's stomachs and make life better for folks. Okay, so that just leaves us with one thing. Oh, folks, if you're going to share it in Facebook, give me a couple of minutes to go onto Facebook and make the video public. Okay, that just leaves one thing left today, David.
Bye, Davey. Bye, Davey.
Bye, Nicola. Bye, Davey. Catch you guys on Thursday, and if anything stupid comes out, I might do a box pop in between. All right, so catch you later.